Good to meet you both, and hello.
Well, I really appreciate you guys letting her speak. She is 18 years old, and this is her decision. She was listening to the live, and she wanted to let you hear her her final senior paper. Oh, it's not my senior paper.
Awesome.
It's a literacy narrative I have to write for a college course. Oh, sorry. And so I wanted to share my story on how I learned to deal with grief. And so I wrote this essay. It's quite long, but I hope y'all are okay with that.
That's fine.
All right. Am I good to start reading whenever?
Yep, go for it, girlfriend.
All right, so it is called The Cycle of Grief. It was a summer to remember. Things at home were starting to get better. Mom had just started a new job and planned to save for a new house. I was about to start high school and excited to be participating in the color guard. A smell of fresh air early in the morning. It was crisp and the sun was hanging low. Little did I know that it would be the last time I ever saw my brother. That day after color guard practice, I decided to go spend a few hours at a friend's house. I let my stepdad know I was leaving, and he asked me to watch my sister for a few minutes. Time passed, and my stepdad came into the room asking for Michael. He's not in here, I say with a confused look on my face. He became frantic, tearing the house up looking for my brother. I was mostly unbothered as Michael had a tendency to wander off or hide from us. I joined in the search, and when he didn't come up, my nerves felt like they had climbed out of my chest. Suddenly, my friend's dad appeared outside, and I told my stepdad to call me when he found Michael. About an hour or so later, I received a call from my mom. I need you to come home right now, your brother's missing. Once I got to my neighborhood, there were hundreds of people walking up and down the streets. Michael, Monkey, a mix of his name and nickname rang out in the crowds. When I reached my house, the front lawn had that fresh cut scent. It was like just that morning he had helped our mom mow the lawn. I could feel the tightness of my shirt, the hot air making it almost unbearable. Inside the house, I immediately scooped up my baby sister, placing her on my hip. I gave my other brother a soft look. Are you okay? His response was a teary-eyed smile up at me. He had never looked so sad before. The guilt seemed to be trapped inside of him. I brushed his long blonde hair off of his face and reassured him, it's not your fault and it never will be. I turned my head to see a tall man in uniform scanning the halls and rooms through my house. So I'm assuming you're the mom? The officer in my living room chimed in. I gave him a shocked but stern look. No, but I'm her oldest. What's going on? He looked almost disturbed at my question. He told me that they had searched all of the bedrooms, the bathrooms, anywhere a little guy could have hidden or fallen asleep. Michael was nowhere to be found. This is when the real panic set in. I ran out the front door, down the steps, and to the left of my front porch. That was where I finally found my mom. Her long red hair was pulled back, and she looked exhausted. I could hear the pain in her voice, which was already becoming hoarse. Mom! The fear in my eyes was more apparent than ever. She pulled me into a quick hug. I promise if that's the last thing I do, we will find him. She let me go and took off in search of him again. For a while, I stayed outside, standing in the driveway and watching the sea of people pass us by. I willed myself to search the house once more after it was finally empty. I went in through the garage and immediately started calling out for Michael. The house was completely empty, but that wasn't the worst of it. It felt empty, like things were missing. I walked through the laundry room, the hallway connecting our rooms. Monkey, I called out. I reached my parents' bedroom. I was so incredibly focused on finding him, I crawled under the bed, practically begging for him. It's not funny anymore, baby. It's time to come out. I managed to choke out between sobs. Eventually, I joined my mom outside again. Some faces that passed were familiar, and many would become familiar later. I was questioned by the police. I don't remember the officer's name, only that she took me into my room where I was comfortable. I gave her my story, and she left. I sat on the porch for a while after that. Hours passed, and I couldn't move, speak, or cry. A blur of text messages and phone calls came in, and all I could do was watch. My whole world had just been flipped upside down. My first day of high school came quickly, and my brother was still the talk of the town. I was not handling it well at all. My freshman year went by in a blur of tears and waiting. I was constantly trying to find answers, and sometimes I would picture his face, his blue eyes and big toothy grin, and I would hear his laugh at random moments. This was the year of my denial. I couldn't believe something like that could happen, yet I was taking care of my mom, my siblings, everyone close to me in the situation. It was like I couldn't afford to be sad. I had to keep it together. Eventually, I grew tired of my mom. I begged her to be normal again, to pick us up from school with the music blasting and our windows down. You're allowed to feel sad, Mom, but you can't wallow in it forever. I'd tell her that multiple times over the years, and each time she would become more understanding. It felt like I lost my mom along with my brother that day. The smell of beer was on her breath anytime I was near her. She had always been a drinker, but after he went missing, it was like she couldn't stop herself. This was her state of denial and an extremely unhealthy coping mechanism. The rest of my school year went on without much news, but I continued to be questioned along with the rest of my family. We all took it in different ways, but the first year was the hardest. After summer, my life started to feel normal again. I could go about my day without feeling completely tethered to what happened. If someone tried to talk to me about it, I would simply just be angry. Rage would bubble up, my heart would pound, but I would simply suppress the feeling. "That happened to you? I'm so sorry," they would tell me, and all I could say back was, "That's none of your business." Without therapy or counseling, I was going through this process on my own. It was scary, but to me, it was better than being served. November 12th, 2022 would change that. "Hey kiddo, I heard all that's going on at home. How are you holding up?" My phone chimed with a text from a friend that had graduated the year before. I had asked how they knew, and in response I got, "It's on the news, plus my family lives close by." I was confused. I had yet to hear about this from anyone in my family or the news. I called my mom and demanded to know what was going on. "They're digging up a yard in the subdivision near our house. They think that's where Michael was buried." My heart stopped. Apparently there had been 4 suspects named in Michael's case following a tip from someone inside that house. My anger began to melt, and all I could do was deny it once again. I refused to believe that he could be dead, let alone buried in a yard 5 minutes from us. The bargaining was the worst. "When we find him, I swear I'll never leave him alone again. I'll play with him every day, just bring him home," was always a thought in my brain. We had spent hours, days, weeks searching for him. Now I was being told on the very little hope that I had left. Winter break went into the new year, and I was beginning to fall into a deep depression. I had dealt with mental health issues in the past, but this was the worst I had been in my entire life. I couldn't eat, I could barely sleep, and I couldn't do my homework. I continued to go in circles of denial, anger, bargaining, and depression. I would take all of this out on the people that loved me, and it was specifically my dad. When 2023 started, everything flew by. April came faster than ever, and I sat down with my dad on our front porch. I explained that he was the only normal part of my life left, and he said something that really stuck with me. "Your life will never be normal again, and you are going to have to live with that. If you keep taking care of everyone else, you'll never take care of yourself." A realization I hadn't had yet. I was pushing my grief process back by being the pillar of my mom's support system. So I came up with a plan. I would talk to both of my parents about how I was feeling and get 2 different responses. My mom was still drinking heavily, so getting much out of her without her breaking down wasn't easy. She did push through eventually, and she realized just how much she was hurting her kids without having to lay a hand on them. Junior year was when I finally had started to accept my situation. It had happened, and it had continued to get bigger. This was a year of waiting, hoping the suspects would be charged, caught, anything to bring justice to my brother. I had wanted nothing more than to just move on with my life. I had made new friends, and they had helped me through some more of my grief process. Mom's drinking continued to get worse, but I decided to stop making her problems my problems. I had finally learned that I couldn't fix everything and that sometimes people need to do things on their own. I felt this constant need to be taking care of someone, even if I wasn't taking care of myself. At this point, I had learned to recognize when I was entering a state of depression. I could take breaks and think about how to get my mind off of it. So instead of dealing with my family's problems, I dealt with my friends. One of those friends was McCall. We had become close during color guard, and she had been there to help me pull me out of my deep depression. I had helped her get out of a toxic friendship the year prior, so in a way, she felt like my sister. I was less focused on the issues with my family and more on the issues with hers. When her family got into some trouble, they had decided to stay in a very dangerous home. The day this happened, my phone rang. "Hey, can you bring me some school clothes in the morning?" McCall's voice on the other end was shaky. "Of course I can. Where are you?" I asked, hoping she was safe. This was when she broke down, saying she wasn't safe where she was staying. I refused to let her stay there and immediately picked her up. "I'm here now. Nothing's going to happen to you," I told her when she got in the car. Her small frame was still shaky, like she couldn't get the feeling of that house off of her. Her big brown eyes were red and puffy, but she seemed relieved when we drove away. My family and I took her in, taking care of anything she needed. It felt nice to have another person in the house. Of course, nobody could replace Michael, but it felt like we had a new addition. During this time, my mom's drinking continued to get worse. She would do interviews and such on the internet, so bringing awareness to Michael's case, but no awareness to her drinking problem. McCall had also recognized this, and we got through it together. We kept quiet when we needed to and enjoyed ourselves when we could. Life truly seemed to have gotten better. The summer before my senior year, we had noticed how sick my mom was. My stepdad had finally convinced her to see a doctor, and it turned out that she had cirrhosis of the liver. This meant that her liver was no longer functioning the way it should have, and she could have died if she had waited any longer. After losing Michael, her addiction had truly gotten worse. My mom quit drinking, and all of a sudden her world was more clear. Of course, she was still sick, but the years of being numbed by alcohol and not being able to remember yesterday's events were over. She turned a new page. I could talk to her about how her addictions made me feel, and she wouldn't lash out or blame me. She apologized over and over again. While we continued to wait for more real justice, she has become the mother I needed my entire life, someone that I could talk to about my issues, someone I can truly confide in. The past 6 months, even without my brother, have been some of the best times of my life. Her being sober was all I wanted for 12 years, and I finally got it. Justice isn't far behind us, with the charges for all 4 suspects in Michael's case already written up. This brought true promise and healing into our household. We miss Monkey every single day that he isn't with us. Grieving him was the worst part of it, but being able to accept that he truly is gone has made life easier. It was a long and demanding process, but we have finally come to a new normal. Learning how to deal with losing a loved one was such a difficult process. Life won't ever be the same, but we continue to push through and raise awareness for missing children. We no longer have to sit and wait for answers because we have gotten them over years of processing. Never completely go away, we'll just get quieter. He may be gone, but he is still my little brother, a joyful, loud, silly, and chaotic little boy that deserved to grow up. Continuing to live my life with a free spirit, that is exactly what he would have wanted me to do. So every day that I am still here, he will be with me. I love you. So, that is our truth. Mr. Shurtliff, if you're still there.
Yeah, I'm here.
This past 1,308 days. So I will let you all go and have a good day.
Well, I just want to thank Blue. I want to thank you for, reading that beautiful, heartfelt, tearful, just amazing letter. You are a very strong, beautiful young woman, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. And Brandi, thank you for, allowing her to share that and share difficult times, with her talking about you and your drinking and stuff. Thank you for allowing her to share everything. I will let Brandon speak to you guys also about hearing that in just a moment. I can't even find my words. In a moment. So, I'll let Brandon speak on it here in a second, and then you guys can listen. Thank you so much, Blue, for sharing that with us. And it's beautiful, and you did an amazing job. Like, you tell the whole story, and our hearts are with you guys. Our hearts are always, I know my heart is here at Missing PNW, Samantha, whatever you want to call me, Blue. I just, I love you guys so much. I'm always thinking and praying about you guys and Michael and, your mom's health and everything. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, love. We really appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you for letting me share my perspective on the story. That's why I wrote the essay, was to give my perspective, because everybody's heard from my mom and everybody's heard from news, but nobody's heard about anything from the kids. Right. So I thought that would be something good to get out there since I'm old enough.
Right? Right? Well, good job, love. And I know that must have been hard reading and stuff. And we appreciate it so much, honey. Thank you. I bet it was. I'm a writer too. So your heart and your feelings are into it at the moment of writing. All right, honey. I'm going to let you go, and then I'll let Brandon talk, and you guys can sit back and watch the rest of the live, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, I thought I would just let you, speak about that for a second, about her letter or her essay.
Yeah. First things first, I want to say is that's not easy or fun thing to be going through, and she did a very good job with her paper on writing that, and I hope that her mother gets feeling better soon and well, and my heart and prayers go out for it. And it's a pretty sad story, just hearing it like that was written out on paper, and definitely life altering, things. Not just easy things to go over. And I can understand depression. I can understand drinking, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, because honestly, I've struggled with some of those kind of things before myself. And it's not good. So I really just hope that he is found, comes back, and becomes part of a life, and the grieving cycle to go over all that. I've recently had loved ones in my life that have passed away and gone on to heaven or this or that or wherever the spirit goes when the body and mind soul leave the body. But my heart just really goes out, and it's very sad. And I did have tears of my own and different things. It's not just a easy thing to go over who did this or who did that. This is someone's life. This is a family's life, and there's anything that I've gone through, they've gone through it like 100 times worse. And I'm gonna do my best to just find out more what I can, help. Being, it's just a lot to go over, a lot to think about. Just
Yeah.